Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the broadcast this evening. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you once again for joining the program this evening, sir. And to our viewers, we're a few minutes late this evening. It was due to some technical issues. But sir, let me go right away into the questioning for this week, sir. May 9th was a very important day for the Russians where they celebrated some victories. And we had quite a lot of noise in the media about what could be happening on the same period this year. But it's come and it's gone. That victory day has been celebrated. What is your take on what has happened on that day, sir?
Well, I think that the Western media hyped up the May 9th celebration. They dramatized it, not the Russians. Whether the whole intention was to anticipate that Putin will make some earth-shattering declarations, especially on Ukraine or whatever. The Western media likes drama. It must be promoted, so that I don't know what the hope, whether this is really what is taught in the School of Journalism in the West. But Putin disappointed them. He gave a low-key speech, and the rolling of tanks, in front of the Kremlin wall was the usual thing. But you'll recall I said last week, what more could he say about Ukraine that he's not already doing? I said so. Ukraine is being flattened from north to south, from east to west. And yet the Western media kept anticipating that they will finally declare war on Ukraine, as if what has been happening in the past 7 weeks was Boy Scout picnic. So, I wasn't surprised the way it went, and he's playing the Western media for a fiddle.
So one of the things that you highlight there, I think, is very important and probably worth delving into a little bit more. In all of this, Ukrainian territory is being decimated. In all of this, infrastructure in Ukraine is being destroyed. But we haven't seen Ukraine attempt. Well, there may be a few occasions here and there. We haven't seen Ukraine actually try to get into Russian territory. What is your take on the military strategy being adopted by Ukraine? And is the West failing in the strategy that they have adopted with Ukraine?
Well, you keep asking your questions and you keep answering them yourself. Maybe Ukraine does not have the military capability to hit Russian territory. Maybe that's why they haven't done so. I wouldn't subscribe to the doctrine that Ukraine is holding back to avoid provoking Putin. I don't think so. I just think they don't have the military wherewithal, to hit deep into Russian territory. The question really that should exercise our mind is, why has the West left Ukraine hanging? because I also believe I said this at the very, okay, let us then go roll these tapes back to the week after Biden was elected. And I saw the caliber of his national security team. I did express some reservation about the experience of these young people. The explanation we were given was that when they've been with him in the Senate, they were his advisors, in the Senate. And I'm starting to wonder, especially when you compare, if that is their experience, background, and you compare it with John F. Kennedy's national security team, where we're talking about, professors from Harvard who'd written books, who had expanded theories about the nature of the world, the nature of the world order at that time. You were, and that is even why I believe the book has been written. But today, if you are addressing an American audience and you talk about the brightest and the best, they will tell you are talking about John F. Kennedy's national security team. The brightest and the best, they will say so. That term has not been used for any other president since John F. Kennedy. And I definitely cannot use it to describe the national security team of Biden. Now, why have I gone that far back? Is because what were these people planning once there was all this debate about will Putin invade or will he not invade? I know that a mental game is played by people involved in conflicts. But then your job is to plan for the worst. You plan that there will be an invasion. What will be your reaction? Or what should be your reaction to that invasion? And you then plan for your own reaction to it. There didn't seem to have been any planning going on within NATO itself. Well, if there's no planning going on in Washington, there will be no planning going on in NATO, because really, Washington is still the leader of NATO. All we got from President Biden was there will be no American troops on the ground. He was taking military retaliation off the table. Again, something which I said was a mistaken strategic approach at that time. And since then, a lot of American seasoned generals retired.
Good evening. I think I lost Prof there. Please bear with me and I will bring him back in a minute. Bear with me, I will bring him back in a minute.
So where are we now?
So we were talking about the strategy of the West in Russia, sir.
Yeah, but are we back with our?
Yes, yes, sir. We are back live now, sir.
I see. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm sorry for this interruption or cut. I apologize to you. I plead to you for continuous patience. But anyway, what I was just trying to say is, if the West, NATO, the United States, if they had a strategic plan at the beginning, there's no evidence of it. Now they are rushing all kinds of weapons in. Whether those weapons are getting in or not, I don't know. But there has been a failure of strategic planning for this war. Not on behalf of Ukraine. And Ukraine is really not an experienced country. I expect that on the part of NATO and the top brass in the United States, there would have been a strategic planning which will have been evident as the war got rather hot.
Yes, I think we are having some serious connectivity issues from Lagos this evening, because I think that I may have lost Prof again here.
I'm here.
Okay. I thought I'd lost you there, sir. Very quickly, one key question that I want to put to you, sir, is the question of the United Kingdom relating to Sweden and Finland, who are trying to join NATO, and the fact that the UK has said they will support those two countries if anything were to happen between the time they put their application in to join NATO. Is the UK really able to provide any kind of assurance here, sir?
Well, obviously, he thinks he can, and he has done so. Britain is still not a pushover militarily. And the statements that are coming out of there show what I again warned about when Biden got to power. That if world leaders assess him and find him weak, they will seek to step in either negatively, as Russia has done, or as China will do, or positively, as Britain and France are doing. They're just going to think Washington is paralyzed because of the nature of leadership. And that's why Britain is now stepping into the gap. And Britain has the capability, obviously not to defeat Russia, but Britain has the capability to inflict sufficient damage as to make Putin pause as to whether he really wants to engage Britain on this issue. What Britain is doing is very vital. It's very vital, very essential, which is that there's going to be a period between when Finland and Sweden apply to join and when they are offered membership. Now, you are going to get all kinds of legal arguments from Washington that, well, until Finland and Sweden actually join, they cannot activate Article 5 of the NATO Treaty, which is an attack on one, it's an attack on all. And what Britain is now saying is once the application is put in, they will step into the gap so that any attack on either Sweden or Finland, Britain will be prepared to defend them. And what I expect, actually, is that Britain haven't taken that step forward. We are going to have Washington also adopting the same position.
One of the things that we've seen with the United Kingdom, and I think I asked this a while ago, sir, what is in it for the UK Prime Minister stepping out the way he's stepping out, potentially putting his country at risk of an attack from from Russia and maybe even Russian allies? What is in it for him, sir, when we look at how he's been standing out shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine, he's been standing out with the United States against Russia?
Well, I think it's come to the conclusion that the safety and survival of the United Kingdom are better served by not allowing Russia dominating Europe. So if Russia dominates Europe, then Russia can dictate the behavioral pattern of maybe every country in Europe, including Great Britain. And therefore, he thinks he's drawn the red line. Let me put it out bluntly. He's drawn the red line that no more aggressive act by Russia will be tolerated. Number two, well, it's possible. I mean, he's a politician after all. And he may have come to the conclusion that a Churchillian posture by Britain on the world scene, which of course means by him, will save him from some of the blunders that he has made on the domestic scene in Britain. And that his colleagues in the Conservative Party will hesitate in getting rid of him at a time when perhaps they also will come to the conclusion that the world needs a Churchill at this point in time.
Thank you, sir. Before we move on from the Russia point, a quick question. We saw the Russian ambassador in Poland was doused with red paint, and the Russian government has called on the Polish government to apologize for what has happened in that situation. What do you think the stance of the Polish government should be in that incident, sir, given what Russia is doing to Ukraine?
Well, it is a tricky situation. Under international law, under the Vienna Convention on diplomatic practice, Poland has an obligation to protect diplomats that are accredited and that are present in its territory. And that includes the ambassador, it includes, their embassy. But having said that, from about the time of the Vietnam War, one had seen, especially as events in the world provoke citizens, and the Vietnam War did provoke citizens all over the world. We did see attacks on the American embassy. We did see, American embassy being burnt, windows, structures being destroyed. And also, as we then went into an era of terrorist activities and terrorist attacks on embassies, you then saw, extreme steps being taken to protect embassies, especially embassies of the superpowers that were activists in the world. Huge walls were now being built around embassies. Access by citizens to embassies were now being restricted. I even think I recall, I think it was the American embassy in London being surrounded by a moat, so that any terrorist vehicle with bombs in it will first of all have to cross that moat, cross the thick wall before it could get across to the embassies. So really extreme measures have had to be taken to meet extraordinary changes in the way human beings got involved and reacted to diplomacy. However, the law is still there, that there is a responsibility by the receiving state to provide security, respect, protection, and what have you to, as I said, ambassadors accredited to this state. So in this particular case, Poland should just apologize tongue in cheek, because respect for diplomacy is actually not based solely on law. It is also based on the principle of reciprocity. What you do to my ambassador in your country, I can do to your ambassador in my own country. Therefore, if Poland does not react with that topology, well, the Polish ambassador in Moscow, it could be arranged for him to be beaten up. After all, he has to attend diplomatic functions. He has to travel, and that's part of his job. He has to travel out of the enclave of the embassy, and they could just arrange traps for him. So more than the law is that fear of reciprocal, antagonistic, hostile action towards the Polish ambassador in Moscow that should advise the Polish government to apologize, even if they don't mean it. Still, you don't lose anything. Apologize for that failure, but claim that they did their best to provide protection, but still they take responsibility for what has happened.
Thank you, sir. Someone on YouTube here is saying that they continue to marvel at the crisis management and strategy acumen of the Ukrainian president compared to the Russian President Vladimir Putin. What is your take on that response? Is Putin being measured in his response back?
Well, I don't know what yardsticks do you use in comparing the actions of a superpower with super weapons at its disposal and the actions and reactions of the president of Ukraine, who has really nothing. Let's put it that way. The weapon he has sought to use, and I think that weapon, it hasn't prevented this country from being flattened, but it's brought some, respect for Ukraine as a country and the prowess of its citizens to face up to aggression and be prepared to go that extra mile and forfeit their lives in the process. Going to classics, the world loves that leader who says, we will give our best, even if it is our last, rather than surrender. People like that. Civilizations like that. And I think we have seen that in the activities and the pronouncements of this Ukrainian president. I will mark him higher any day, anytime than Putin. Because what are you? A lion goes after a rabbit, and then you say you are applauding the courage of the lion. No, it's what the rabbit does. And forever, the world will condemn the activities and the action of the lion. And in this particular case, I think Putin stands condemned for what he's done. And the president of Ukraine, honestly, would deserve a Nobel Prize for courage if there is one. And I think there should be one.
Thank you, sir. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on between China and the WHO. And the head of the WHO had referred to China's zero COVID policy as an unsustainable one. What is your take on the comments first and on China's response to the WHO on that point, sir?
How would the WHO Director General know which policy is sustainable or not? How will he know? We are still in the middle of the game. We are not even half time yet. There are two competing strategies for dealing with COVID-19 and Omicron. And both really depend on guesses. Nobody is sure of what strategy will work. On one hand, you have the Chinese strategy of zero tolerance for COVID-19. On the other hand, you have the Western strategy of exposing its people hope that they will get to that, they will get to that level where there will be immunity, and that's the best way to cope with this virus. Treat it like the flu. Continue to get jabs and hope that, well, it will come and the reaction will be low on the part of people who have been vaccinated, who are then exposed to it. That is the Western strategy, as opposed to that of the Chinese of zero tolerance, shutting down of cities and corralling anyone who's been exposed into safe havens, and then hope that that will actually beat the COVID-19. Nobody knows which is the accurate one. Nobody knows which is the correct one. And I think the Director General of the WHO is a bit presumptuous in now deciding which is the accurate one when the results are not in. And I believe that he may be operating under the influence of the scientists who are working in the WHO, most of whom are Westerners, that is responsible for his remark. I don't think he should have said what.
So, someone has asked a question here, but as I'm only the moderator, sir, I will pass the question to you, sir. And I hope you can hear me, sir. Sir, can you hear me? Once again, to our viewers, Let me just check with our viewers. Can you hear Prof now? If you can you please put a note on YouTube if you can hear me? Can you please put a note just so I know that we are good? Yes. Okay, fantastic. So I will ask the question again. And what I was saying, our viewers, just to make sure that all is good, someone asked a question and said, when there were elections in France, that Prof spoke about the elections. Someone is asking a question here that I will throw to you after I finish this one, sir. But so we talked about the elections in France. So the person is asking that what is Prof's view on the news that the Nigerian president has asked 5 of his cabinet members to resign for seeking political office. So back to you now, sir, Prof. I think the people can hear you, sir.
Oh, all right. Well, I spoke about the French election because the moderator asked me about the French election. I haven't spoken about the Nigerian election because the moderator has not asked me about the Nigerian election. But now that he's passed the question on to me, I will confront the issues in the Nigerian election. The president from the beginning should simply have said, if you have an interest in running for office and you are in my cabinet, I give you 24 hours to resign, or I will fire you. After all, they are his appointees. I don't know why the president himself has dilly-dallied until it has become court case, some judgment here, court of appeal, saying that court lacked jurisdiction because of the legal principle of locus. Mark you, the Supreme Court has said, where matters of public interest are involved, the principle of locus should not be used in determining the outcome of the case. But let's put that aside. It didn't need to go this far. And even after the president said that 24 hours ago, one of the ministers has been quoted as saying, I am not going to resign until I've consulted with my people. Well, again, the solution is fine. And some will now tell you they're going to consult with God before they know what to do. The president should exercise leadership. I'll ask you to leave my cabinet if you are not going to obey me. After all, I didn't consult your people before I appointed you a minister. But it becomes so messy. That's the that's the direct answer to your direct question. Having said that, I am appalled and embarrassed at the degradation of the biggest, the highest office in the land, how it has been degraded, as if people were dealing with the captain of a canoe going out fishing. Who will be the captain? This is a country of 200 and plus million people. That's number one. This is a country that has several internal security and strategic issues to confront. That's number two. Number three, in spite of all its difficulties, Nigeria is still about the number three countries in Africa, and the last report that I read on analysis on strategic position puts Nigeria at number 35 in the world. So you are not dealing with a banana republic. How it has come to this stage, the caliber of people who are now saying they are going to run for office, it beats me. It angers me. I can't even, how do I face people? How do I face people and seek to justify what is going on in Nigeria in terms of its own presidential post? It's unworthy of Nigeria, very unworthy. And finally, the question of 100 million naira to buy the form that we will fill to state your intention that you are interested in competing. And people are coming up with 100 million as if you are asking people for 2,000 naira for £1. Come and buy this biscuit or this chocolate for £1 or for 2,000 naira. And this money is coming out. And they think they're dealing with fools. People now find 100 million to buy forms for somebody who says, I haven't made up my mind whether I am interested in running. Where did these people get 100 million? If not from the same man? It's like covering your face with 5 fingers spread out and say, I'm not here, it's not me. People see through those spread fingers and they know it is you. No. This whole thing is unworthy of Nigeria. Unworthy.
Well, there are 2 questions here. So before I ask my question, someone has said that we should compensate by another session before next week, Thursday. So I have made a decision on their behalf, sir, that I will go a little bit over time this evening because I'm sure you're a very busy man. I'm not sure I can get you again before next week, Thursday. So I just wanted to warn you, sir, that I will go above 8 o'clock by a few minutes, sir.
Oh, you are back.
Yes, sir. I'm here, sir. Can you hear me, sir? Oh, to our viewers, it looks like the internet doesn't want to do what it's supposed to do this evening. But I'm going to put this last question to Prof. So the person that asked that, please just hold on. I'm sure he's going to come back. And once he does, I will pass this question on. was just saying there to that someone wanted us to have another session, sir, before next week, Thursday. But I took the decision to extend this evening a little bit. So apologies for that, sir.
And I said it will cost you 100 million naira, the extension.
Sir, that's chicken change. I can get somebody who can, a consortium that will sort that out. In this era of consortiums,
I know.
Problem.
I know.
All right, sir. The question here is that someone says President Macron was reported as saying recently that in seeking a resolution to Ukraine war, Russia must not be humiliated. And the person says, what's your stance on that, sir?
What constitutes humiliation of Russia? What? It's Russia that has been humiliating everybody, including Macron himself. The important thing, I believe, is that even if I concede to Macron that there should be a parameter that Russia or Putin must not be humiliated, the other parameter also should be that a dictator must not be tolerated in Europe or even anywhere of the world for that matter. A dictator who gobbles up land of other independent countries. Or else you will then make absolute nonsense of the United Nations. If you are going to tolerate a man who sent troops into another country's territory, and then you don't want to humiliate him by allowing him to get away with annexation of land that belongs under the sovereignty of another country. However, and we've said this here several times, this is again what now calls for intervention behind the screen. Intervention behind the screen by either the Pope or the primate of the Orthodox Church, or a combination of the two of them, again, maybe working with medium power countries. I hope I'm not irritating anybody by continuing to come up with this. There are countries like Brazil, countries like Nigeria, countries like South Africa, countries like Chile, who perhaps along with the Pope and the primate can then seek soft diplomacy. And they can then work out something that will be acceptable to NATO and acceptable to Russians.
So someone here, people are pleading, sir, that we should, what you are saying, please extend the time. This is so interesting. Prof has spoken out our minds on the Nigeria question. So I think people are sharing the view that you have expressed relating to Nigeria, sir, on that point. That's another question I'd like to put to you, sir, and that is the association of Asian countries that are visiting the United States this week. In fact, I think the summit starts today, where President Biden is meeting with about 8 leaders from the Southeast Asian countries on a 2-day summit. What do you expect to come out of that summit, sir?
It depends, see, on the alignment of these countries. Because what we are starting to have now is a group of countries aligned to us versus a group of countries aligned to China. And if it's a group of countries aligned to the United States, of course you are going to get declarations which are not going to be acceptable to China or North Korea. So you have to tell me, who are the people attending the meeting?
Singapore, the Philippines, they're meant to be part of the session, sir. We know clearly that Myanmar has been excluded because of the issues that are going on there in terms of the military activities that are going on there, sir. But do you see, with just those 2 countries that I mentioned, sir, do you see this changing any dynamic in the Indo-Pacific area at all?
But the Indo-Pacific area has not been divided into 2 in terms of their allegiances. You have those who are
Okay. I think we've lost Prof again. So what we're going to do is that we're going to end tonight anyway. I think we've gone a little bit over time, but I also think that it will be was just saying, sir, that even though I can see some questions here, but the stability of the line will impact the viewing experience for the viewers. So what I will do for our viewers is I will start from this point. I can see some questions here around the president of the election of the president of the Philippines has been put out here. I will start with that question next week, sir. And
all right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But I would want our viewers to have the best viewing experience, even though they say they are willing to stay. But why it keeps dropping, sir.
Yes, I apologize to them and I thank them for their patience. But it's very, very irritating when all of a sudden connections drop. I don't even know when it drops. I'm just blabbering on, you know. So I do apologize to them.
Not at all, sir. We will be back next week, and yes, to our viewers, yes, we apologize. We'll try to sort this out for next week as well. So on that note, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being there this evening. Thank you for the patience. And we'll be back again next week. And we will start with the questions that I can see in the chat window now. Thank you and bye for now.